YouTube, what's going on? It's Tijon, aka Top Cyberdog, and I'm back with the unexpected video with quick turnaround. As you guys know, in my last video, I went over my ECA second capstone Splunk dashboard, and today was the day I got the chance to present that in front of a live panel. And due to some unforeseen circumstances in the positioning in which I was pitching my demo today, my time got cut short and the panel that was involved with my pitch had to go. It was unexpected, but definitely was some real world practice as far as, hey, you might get into these meetings with C-suite members and time is cut short, much shorter than was scheduled, and they got to go. And all that hard work might have to get passed on to a later meeting, or all that work is just lost. So I was very thankful that I got that experience to be thrown into, but at the same time, I worked very hard on my dashboard that I had built up for my capstone, and I want to show it off. So during my pitch, two of my panel members were a part of the Stats on Stats podcast, Jordyn and Tiffiny. Thank you guys again for your time today. It really was a treat having you guys in and getting your insight on how we could perform better with our demos and pitches. But as I mentioned to you in chat, Jordyn, I definitely was gonna make this YouTube video explaining my Splunk dashboard and my demo, just so you can get a whole picture of what I had planned if time wasn't cut too short. And also Chloe Burton, who was supposed to be on the panel as well. She didn't have a chance to sit in today, unfortunately, but I told her I would definitely shoot her a link once I created this video, got it all edited and ready for YouTube. But like I said, being involved in ECA, we go over different things within our Splunk environment, SOAR environment as well, Splunk SOAR. And then we do capstones to tie in everything that we learned to pitch to a C-suite audience or even a non-technical audience, just to demonstrate everything that we learned and cemented in our brain. It truly has been a blessing to be able to be a part of these capstones, and it's taught me so much, not only about Splunk, but just about being able to present and being more comfortable doing so. The capstone that I was tasked with for the second capstone as a junior analyst was explaining knowledge objects within Splunk to a fictitious company called Silversmith. And we pretty much have to go over how different knowledge objects, save searches, reports, dashboards, pivot tables, workflow actions can all benefit this fictitious company and improve their workflow within Splunk. Also, how it can benefit them in other areas such as sales. So I built up a dashboard that will explain different use cases that I picked out involving knowledge objects, and you'll get a better picture of what I had planned out for Silversmith company. So without further ado, we're going to hop over into Splunk. I'm going to walk you guys through what I had planned for Silversmith. I'm going to get right into it. All right, let's go. All right. Welcome, Silversmith and subscribers, to my Silversmith Knowledge Object demo. As I said earlier, Silversmith has accepted Splunk Enterprise into their environment, and they're looking to get up to speed on how they can maximize their investment. And we are tasked with going over knowledge objects and how they can maximize Silversmith's investment with Splunk Enterprise in their environment. So some challenges that Silversmith faces outright off the bat: understanding knowledge objects. Second, monitoring different data metrics within Splunk. Third, poor data enrichment. So how can we turn that poor data into an enriched data set that we can maximize to its full potential? fourth would be inconsistent naming. So with different endpoints that we have at Silversmith, those are raw data points that are sending raw logs to our Splunk Enterprise instance. So we have to make sense of potential inconsistent naming conventions, whether that be with something, for example, like destination IP address, making it where it's consistent as far as how it's named in our environment across the board with different departments that we might have logs and metrics being sent up to Splunk. And then last, we have alert fatigue. As some of you may know, being a security analyst, we look through a lot of different logs, source points, source types, and it can get tiring, not only for the mind, but for the eyes, and that causes mistakes. We are only human, so any way that we can reduce that fatigue, the better. So this dashboard that I have built up will hopefully display, it will display the power of knowledge objects and how they can solve these challenges that Silversmith faces. Okay, so right off the bat, the layout of this dashboard is essentially our important cybersecurity events at the top, and then we go more into sales-based knowledge objects at the very bottom. So for the very first use case, we have Mimikatz execution detected, and this is tied to the MITRE attack framework with the subtechnique T1.003.001. We created this SPL query that detects the event type and tags the subtechnique of T1.003 to potential credential dumping via Mimikatz. And this is based on sysmon processing creation logs. And for those of you who don't know what Mimikatz is, it's a really nasty tool that is used potentially for malicious reasons, and essentially it steals credentials, and it makes it really easy for threat actors to pry eye into what you're doing in your system and environment. So it's something that, especially in an organization, we never want to have present on any endpoint in our environment. And as you can see, we have queried out a table that has found evidence of Mimikatz within our Silversmith logs. So we can see we have a couple different dates actually recently, and it looks like our Orlando based device from the HR department, a laptop number 1234 with the username of Haidar, has evidence that they have downloaded and gotten Mimikatz on their system. We can see right here it was on the desktop, then it was in the documents, and then we can see the command line parent process, and we can see we've actually associated the MITRE subtechnique with this Mimikatz event. So if we want to take it a step further, we can enrich this by associating this dashboard panel with the actual MITRE page. So for example, if we click on this, that will prompt us to be redirected to the MITRE official page, where we can get an exact breakdown of what's going on and what potentially our threat actor might be doing behind the scenes. So as we can see, we have a full breakdown of this attack and what our our threat actor might be doing. And as we can see right here, I see something familiar. If we highlight that and go back, we can see on the 29th, this was successfully run via PowerShell on one of our Silversmith endpoints. So that is no good. That tells us that we have further investigating to do as far as getting this off of the network and remediating this and getting in touch with the user of this device. So another example of how we can purposefully manipulate our data to be enriched and offer quick insights to analysts as they go through different dashboards, different SPL queries to find malicious threat actors in our environment. All right, next we're going into still a cyber-based use case, but something simple. This is going over reports. So this use case identifies and reports high severity events by source IP. So we have tabled out source IP addresses and the attack types those addresses are associated with. So you can see here we have a low count, but for instance, if we recognize one of these IP addresses attempts one of these attacks more than 3 times, we can set an alert where then once that threshold is met or crossed, an alert will be sent out to anybody in our organization that needs to be in the know about said alert. And if we go to edit, we can get evidence of that right here. We can see the report has been created, and we can create a schedule and then get monitoring as far as when it's being sent out, who it's been sent to, and how many actions we've tied in with this one report. All right, let's go ahead and cancel that. So a really quick use case example, but still very powerful. Getting into reporting if we need to stay on top of compliance, such as PCI DSS for our credit card payments, the NIST 800 framework, being able to query up different SPL queries that allow us to create reports. We can continuously use those. And as I mentioned earlier in my overall PowerPoint presentation, anything that we can reuse within Splunk is a knowledge object. All right, so headed on to the next use case that I have built up. Probably one of my favorites, mainly because of the third-party integration, but we have the workflow action. And essentially what that is we're associating a certain field and telling Splunk to take whatever the value is of that field and plug it into a URL that we can then automatically query up, for instance, with VirusTotal, and get immediate knowledge on a potential IOC or indicator of compromise. So for this example, we are looking up destination IP addresses with the help of VirusTotal. So briefly, we see events right here. We have 3 of them. Say, for instance, we are security analysts and we want to investigate a potential event. We drop this down. We see event actions. We can see dest_IP. And if we hit event actions, we see the workflow action that we created, VirusTotal lookup destination IP. We click that. This will automatically query up VirusTotal and plug in that event destination IP so we can get immediate insight if that IP address is malicious or good to go. So just another example of the abilities to accelerate our investigations and make knowledgeable actions based off of results like this. Okay, and then we can do this for any other event that has happened in our environment. So before we hop on to the next one, I just want to go over behind the scenes for that workflow action. As you can see from the fields workflow action section, we have that created, or not, that's actually not the created one that we need. Let's go back. Here we go. So this is the correct workflow action. We have the VirusTotal lookup destination IP, and we have associated the fields of DEST_IP. And so we have told Splunk to initially, like I said earlier, plug in whatever value is in this field and paste that into this specific URL or URI that we have configured here. So whatever IP address is in that field, it will be plugged into this VirusTotal link and automatically get, via the get method, our analytics on that IP reputation, speeding up our investigation and allowing us to be much more efficient in our environment. All right, so really cool stuff. And like I said, that doesn't have to be strictly for a destination IP address. We can do that for the source IP. So just keep that in mind. We can change that and configure that however we see fit at Silversmith. The next use case we have on the agenda is field aliases. So like I said earlier, we are dealing with a lot of different endpoints and devices in our environment, laptops, firewalls, what have you. And the way those raw logs are being sent up to our Splunk instance, they might not be consistent across the board, whether how things are named, spelled, we don't know. So the goal of field aliases is to unify those field names across our different data sources to make the lives of our analysts and our logs and reporting much more consistent. It's just best practice, and it really does improve our security posture. So if you can see, for this use case, we've essentially did something very simple but very impactful. We've added the alias of SRC to the field of source IP address. So I've already had, there we go. I've already had this queried up in the SPL. So as you can see, the SPL is very short and it gets straight to the point. We are searching our index and we have called out via the field alias SRC, and we have plugged in our IP address. And if we drop that event down for that specific IP address, we can see in the details not only the source IP address, it still exists as far as that field and that name, but the attached field alias of SRC. And as you can see, they both have the same IP address because, of course, it's just associated, so it is the same thing. So again, another way that we can speed up our analysts' workflow by associating different field aliases and making things much more streamlined across our environment with our different endpoints. All right, now we're heading away from our cybersecurity based use cases and going more into a sales perspective. I know Tiffany had some feedback for me as I closed out my pitch, and she wanted to see how this demo could benefit a sales point of view and help Silversmith in that aspect. If I had the time to do so, I definitely believe that this would speak to that more. So we're going to run through that right now. So the next use case we have is something very simple to do, but we wrote out a query that is calling for the daily purchase count within Silversmith, so we can get an accurate daily picture of what's going on within Silversmith and our sales. And we have it manipulated to be displayed in the format of a bar chart, something that we can definitely report on, keep in a dashboard to be seen by analysts and sales teams on a daily basis, send it to the CEO on a daily, weekly basis, whatever is needed. We can enrich our data by making queries that can be displayed in such fashion. So it's something where we can monitor on a day-to-day basis how we're doing with sales on certain products and drill it down from there. Next up, we have another sales-based use case. We have a purchase spike monitoring use case where we are monitoring Silversmith's customer purchase performance. So again, another way we can manipulate the data to be displayed differently. We have a line chart where we have a more detailed breakdown in time regarding different sales metrics throughout the day for our purchasing. So we can see where we have our lows, and then when we have our peaks, and then we can drill that down even further and make more knowledgeable action on our insights. And again, this too can be reported out just like the bar chart. So it's definitely something that we can reuse. And like I said, a knowledge object is something that we can reuse. So this better helps us prepare for the challenges of monitoring and being able to display and enrich our data that much more. All right, now headed down to the final use case before I want to hop over into pivot tables and data models before we wrap up. We have a use case displaying our top error producing products within Silversmith. And as you can see, we just have 2 products in our environment. We have the Silversmith Velvet Cake, which I love, by the way. And we have the Arctic Silver Ice Cream. And as you can see, we have enriched Silversmith's data by applying tags to these fields. In this SPL query, we are querying up the top products producing the 404 error. And if some of you don't know, or I'm sure you do know, anytime you're presented in front of a web page with the 404 graphic, that is pretty much telling you the page cannot be found. So whether the web page was deleted and we need to speak to a webmaster or update a link, this is telling us we're potentially losing money as a whole. And you can see right here, we have tagged the status of 404 to a specific word or phrase. And the number 1 Silversmith Velvet Cake has been hit with 230 404 errors, meaning we are losing out on revenue, and the ice cream with 90. So if we head over to the SPL query, we can see we are calling from our sales index. And like I said previously, I have associated the tag phrase error to the status code of 404. Let's see. So anytime 404 is presented in our environment, the tag error will be paired up with it. And if we go over here into the settings for this field, we can see I've associated the event type status 404 with the word error. And as you can see here right above that, I went ahead and did the opposite and showed an example for successful 200 status codes. And if we go back here, we type in that phrase of success. Let me spell it right first of all. Run a search. We have all our status code 200 events at a glance already with a very short SPL query. So another example of how we can enrich our data sets, make the lives of our analysts working much easier, and just have a lot of consistency as far as the efficiency in our environment. Okay, now before we wrap up this whole presentation today, I went through all the use cases, but that is for folks that are fairly technical. For those of you who might not be as comfortable working with the language of SPL within Splunk, we have something for you as well. That goes over pivot tables and data models and how they work together. So for those of you who aren't comfortable typing out confusing queries, this will be for you. Okay. So let's go ahead and close these out and just make this more easier on the eyes. Okay, perfect. So the easiest way to break down data models is think of it like sorting Legos into a bin. If we want to build some kind of massive Lego or not so massive Lego, if we have everything pieced together in certain bins that's labeled, it makes it easier to get it built up much faster. So I've already done the liberty of ingesting our certain index that we're going to be demoing for the pivot table. So we already have it here in our Silversmith cyber attack. Go ahead and open that up, and that will take us to our data sets breakdown. We only have one data set ingested, but once we ingested that data set, we then get the opportunity to normalize the events that are either auto extracted up here, or we have to use an eval expression to manipulate. So essentially we're calling out what that field will look like as far as its naming and whatnot. So we've already tabled out the fields for our data set, and everything you see here as far as firewall logs, geolocation, malware indicator, source IP address, these are all pieces that we can apply to create a puzzle as far as what we're trying to answer for, different security events in our environment. So when this is all set up, that allows non-technical people to use the pivot option and then create different dashboards and different knowledge object use cases that they can present, display without having to know or type out any kind of SPL query. So we'll go ahead and load into our pivot, and we'll go ahead and create something on the fly. All right, so we can see all these fields are available to us to tell a story. So we'll go ahead and load into that. And this should load up to about 40,000 different cyber events. Now, this isn't truly Silversmith's status. This is just some example data that we're playing with here. Now, we can see split rows, we have split columns, and then we have all time as far as our time range. And then we have different options as far as how we can manipulate and display our different creations within the pivot table. So we are in a new pivot, and let's get into those fields and see what we can create. All right, so I'll try to be brief with this, but still be very impactful as far as what we show. Let's do, for the column, let's go with attack type, and then we'll add that to the table. And then, as we can see, that has added the amount of different attacks per their category, and we can enrich that even more by adding a row to that. And let's say, what can we add? Let's do severity level. Boom. Now this is just a quick example, but we've essentially created an actionable dashboard panel that we can then save as into a dashboard panel, report on, play around and change the visualizations if it makes sense. Of course, if it makes sense. But as you can see, somebody who's not technical, all they have to do is just plug in what they want to visualize, and the world is at their fingertips. So again, we went over the challenges that Silversmith is currently facing and how these different knowledge objects can help with those challenges that Silversmith faces. Excuse me. Different ways that we can monitor our data in our environment, enrich our data sets, change inconsistent naming conventions, decrease alert fatigues amongst our security analysts, and just really maximize our investment with Splunk Enterprise. So again, Jordyn, Tiffany, Chloe, thank you guys for your time. My viewers, thank you for your time going through this knowledge object demo with me. And thank you for your time with my presentation. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you. All right, so we walked through my Splunk knowledge object demo for the Silversmith company, and I want to thank you guys for your time. I know it's been a lot of info thrown at you regarding knowledge objects and what they do, but I really do appreciate every view that we've gotten, especially for the channel as a whole. Another thank you to Jordyn and Tiffiny again for your time today during our ECA Capstone presentation. I really do appreciate the challenge you guys gave me as far as trying to quickly turn around this video, explaining my dashboard and my demo use cases. So again, thank you for that motivation. Chloe as well, if you had a chance to look at this video, definitely salute you and appreciate it. Your time for our various different capstones that we've been involved with, and I see in the past that you've been involved with, has been very beneficial to the cybersecurity community as a whole. So definitely my hats off is to all of you. So I appreciate it. Woo! It's been a long day, you guys. So I'm gonna get out of here. If you made it to the end of this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. It's your boy Top Cyberdog. I'm out of here. Peace.